Hello, everyone. Today I want to share a story that is not only helpful for English listening practice, but also deeply motivational. It is a story about effort, courage, and the truth that many people try to avoid. Nothing valuable in life comes easily. Comfort can be given. Luck can appear for a moment. But real success, lasting respect, and a meaningful future must be earned. This is the story of a young man named Ethan, who was 21 years old and lived in a small riverside village called Stonebridge. It was a quiet place, surrounded by green hills and old forests, where most people lived simple lives and expected little from the future. But Ethan was different. He had a dream much bigger than the village itself. He wanted to build something of his own. He wanted to become a successful businessman. More than that, he wanted to lift his family out of struggle and prove that a difficult beginning did not have to define an entire life. Ethan's family had never known comfort. His father, Thomas, repaired bicycles and farm tools in a narrow workshop behind their house. His mother, Helen, worked long hours washing clothes and cleaning homes for wealthier families in nearby neighborhoods. Ethan's younger sister, Lily, was only 11 years old, but she adored her older brother and believed he could do anything. To her, Ethan was already a hero, even though he owned nothing and had not yet achieved the future he dreamed about. On cold nights, Ethan would sit by the riverbank and stare at the lights in distant houses across the water. He often wondered what it felt like to live without fear of bills, food, or tomorrow. One evening, as the wind moved through the reeds and the sky turned dark blue, he whispered to himself, "There has to be more than this. I can't let my family stay like this forever." The next morning, he spoke honestly with his father. He shared his dream of building a business and changing their future. Thomas listened quietly and then wiped the grease from his hands with an old cloth. He looked at his son and said, "Dreams are expensive, Ethan, not because they require money at first, but because they demand work, sacrifice, and patience. If you want a different life, begin with what is already in your hands. Even a small beginning is better than waiting for the perfect moment." Those words stayed in Ethan's mind all day. He walked through Stonebridge, thinking about what people needed and what he could offer. Then he noticed something simple but important. The people in the village loved fresh baked goods, especially bread, but the nearest proper bakery was many miles away in the market district of Ravenhill. Families often had to buy old bread from small shops because fresh bread was hard to get. That was when an idea was born. Ethan decided he would bring fresh bread from Ravenhill to Stonebridge and sell it in the village square. It sounded simple, but there was a problem. He had no money to buy the bread in advance. For most people, that would have been the end of the idea. For Ethan, it was only the first obstacle. The following morning, before sunrise, he walked all the way to Ravenhill. The road was long, muddy, and cold, but he kept going until he reached an old brick bakery owned by Mr. Whitmore, a stern man with gray hair, sharp eyes, and little patience for excuses. People respected him because he had spent decades perfecting his craft, but they also knew he did not trust easily. Ethan stepped inside and introduced himself. With steady eyes and a respectful tone, he said, "Sir, I have a proposal. People in my village want fresh bread, but they have no easy way to get it. I want to sell your bread in Stonebridge, I don't have the money to pay you up front, but if you give me 1 week, I will sell the loaves, return your money, and keep only a small profit. Mister? Whitmore crossed his arms and studied him in silence. And why? He finally asked. Should I trust a young man I've never seen before? Ethan answered without hesitation. Because I'm willing to work hard enough to earn that trust. The old baker did not smile. He did not soften. But after a long pause, he said, 1 week, not a day more. If you fail to return what you owe, don't come back. Ethan thanked him, loaded the bread carefully, and began the long walk home. By the time he reached Stonebridge, his shoulders ached and his legs burned, but he refused to complain. He found a good spot near the square, arranged the bread neatly, and greeted every passerby with warmth and confidence. At first, few people stopped. Some were curious, others doubtful. They had never seen him selling bread before, and they wondered if it was worth buying. Ethan didn't become discouraged. He cut small pieces and offered samples. He spoke kindly, smiled often, and described the bread as if he truly believed in it. Because he did, by the end of the day, everything was sold. That evening, exhausted but proud, Ethan returned to Ravenhill and paid Mr. Whitmore exactly what he owed. The old baker counted the money, looked at the young man, and nodded once. You kept your word, he said. Come again tomorrow. From that point on, Ethan's routine became relentless. He woke before dawn, walked to Ravenhill, collected bread, carried it back, and spent the day selling. Rain did not stop him. Wind did not stop him. Tiredness did not stop him. While others slept, he moved. While others complained, he worked. Week after week, he repeated the process. Slowly, small profits turned into savings. After several months, he bought a sturdy handcart so he could carry more bread at once. This increased his sales, but it also gave him a new idea. One afternoon, a regular customer said to him, You're excellent at selling, Ethan. But if you ever learn to bake your own bread, you'll have a real future. That sentence stayed with him. The thought excited him because it meant freedom and growth. But it also frightened him. Selling was one thing. Baking was another world entirely. He had never made a loaf of bread in his life. Still, he understood something important. Growth always asks a price. If he wanted more, he would have to learn more. Knowledge would not come to him while he stood still. The next day, Ethan asked Mr. Whitmore if he would teach him. The older man frowned deeply. Why would I train someone who might become my competitor? Ethan answered honestly. Because I won't forget who opened the first door for me. If I succeed, I will honor that. Mr. Whitmore was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, Baking is not a trick. It is discipline. It is repetition. It is failure again and again until your hands learn what your mind cannot. If you are ready for that, come tomorrow at 3 in the morning. Ethan arrived before the hour. His training began in darkness when the ovens were still heating and the air smelled of flour, fire, and yeast. At first he was clumsy. He kneaded too hard. He measured poorly. He baked loaves that were too pale, too dense, too dry, or completely uneven. Some mornings he felt embarrassed by how bad his work was. One day, after ruining an entire batch, he sat on a crate behind the bakery and stared at the floor. For a moment, doubt whispered to him. Maybe he was not talented enough. Maybe he was trying to reach beyond his place. Maybe he should be grateful for simple selling and stop chasing more. Then he remembered his father's words. Dreams are expensive. He realized that failure was not proof that he should quit. It was proof that he was learning something difficult. He stood up, washed his hands, and started again. Day after day, he practiced. He learned how dough should feel, not just how it should look. He learned that heat must be respected, that patience affects flavor, and that small details separate average work from excellent work. Gradually, his bread improved. Then one morning, Mr. Whitmore picked up a loaf Ethan had baked, cut it open, looked at the texture, and said, "Now you're beginning to understand." That was all the praise Ethan needed. Soon he rented a small oven and began baking at home. His family supported him in every possible way. Lily wrapped bread in paper and tied it with string. Helen prepared tea and helped keep records of costs. Thomas repaired old shelves and built a stronger stand for the cart. What had once been only Ethan's dream slowly became the family's shared mission. As months passed, Ethan expanded beyond bread. He experimented with sweet rolls, biscuits, fruit pies, and later small cakes. The people of Stonebridge loved the freshness and the care he put into every item. Customers returned not only because the food was good, but because they trusted him. But success always attracts new tests. One spring, a polished new bakery opened on the other side of the square. It belonged to a confident young man named Julian who had money, modern equipment, glossy signs, and a shop window filled with bright decorations. Villagers were impressed. Many wanted to try the new place, and Ethan's sales began to drop. For several days, fear tightened around his chest. He had built so much through sacrifice. What if it all disappeared? What if someone with more money could erase years of effort? But Ethan had already learned one of life's most valuable lessons. Panic solves nothing. Instead of complaining about unfairness, he studied the situation carefully. He asked customers what they liked. Some said the other bakery looked more attractive. Some admired the decorations. Others liked the way the cakes were presented. Ethan listened without pride getting in the way. He understood that competition was not an insult. It was information. Using the little money he had saved, he improved his cart and later refreshed his small selling space. He painted it with warm colors, added cleaner displays, and learned cake decoration by reading books at the town library and practicing late at night. Slowly, customers began returning. They appreciated not only the products, but the heart behind them. One elderly customer told him, "Plenty of people start strong when life is easy. Few stay strong when life gets hard. That is why people trust you." Those words meant more to Ethan than she probably knew. Eventually, he saved enough to rent a modest shop near the river road. It was not luxurious. It did not shine like Julian's place, but it was warm, honest, and welcoming. He named it Riverstone Bakery. Every morning, before dawn colored the sky, he prepared dough, lit ovens, and opened the door with quiet gratitude. For a while, life seemed to be rewarding his persistence. The business grew. Families came in daily. Travelers passing through Stonebridge stopped for pastries and tea. Lily proudly greeted customers after school. Helen kept the accounts organized. Thomas repaired equipment and told everyone his son had built something real from almost nothing. And then, just when everything seemed stable, disaster arrived. Late one stormy evening, after closing time, Ethan smelled smoke. He rushed toward the back of the bakery and saw flames near one of the old ovens. He reacted quickly and managed to stop the fire before it spread through the whole building, but the damage was serious. Several tools were ruined. Part of the workspace was blackened. Shelves, trays, and equipment were unusable. The next morning, people gathered outside the bakery, whispering. Some were sad, some were doubtful. A few quietly assumed Ethan's journey had finally reached its end. Ethan looked at the damage, and his heart felt heavy. He had every reason to collapse under the weight of disappointment. He had every reason to ask why this happened after all the work, sacrifice, and discipline he had poured into his future. But he did not surrender. Standing outside the damaged shop, he said aloud, "This is not the end. It's another price I have to pay on the road forward." He counted his savings and realized immediately that it would not be enough to replace everything. Fear returned. But this time, it did not control him. He went to visit Mr. Whitmore, now retired, and asked for guidance. The older man listened and then smiled faintly. "You already know what to do," he said. "You built yourself once. Build again. People respect those who refuse to stay down." So Ethan started over, once more, with less than he needed but more wisdom than before. He used the remaining equipment at home and baked smaller batches. He spoke openly to customers and said, "The shop is damaged, but I'm still working. I may have less to offer for now, but I won't disappear." Something remarkable happened. Because Ethan had spent years helping himself instead of waiting to be rescued, others now wanted to help him too. Villagers brought flour, sugar, butter, and fruit. A carpenter repaired damaged counters for almost nothing. Some people contributed small amounts of money. Others volunteered time to clean and restore the bakery. Ethan understood a deep truth in that moment. When people see determination, honesty, and effort, they often choose to stand beside it. Months later, Riverstone Bakery reopened. It was better than before. Stronger shelves, safer ovens, new items on the menu, a brighter space, more warmth, more purpose. On reopening day, the mayor visited and said, "Your bakery is no longer just a shop. It is proof that perseverance can change not only one life, but an entire community." Ethan stood before neighbors, friends, and customers and spoke from the heart. "I want to thank every person who believed in me. This journey taught me something I will never forget. Success is not free. Respect is not free. Skill is not free. Even love and trust must be earned through character, patience, and persistence. Every setback contains a lesson. Every challenge asks who you really are. If you keep moving, if you keep learning, if you keep working when it would be easier to stop, life will eventually answer you." In the years that followed, people from nearby towns came to Stonebridge not only for bread and cakes, but to hear the story of the young man who refused to quit. Ethan did more than open a bakery. He built a reputation. He built stability for his family. He built a life shaped by effort rather than excuses. And that is the heart of this story. Dreams require sacrifice. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Real growth begins when excuses end. And when people see that you are willing to work for your future, they often become willing to support you. Ethan's life did not change because of magic, luck, or easy opportunities. It changed because he accepted the truth that many people avoid. Nothing meaningful comes without a price. But that truth is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to empower you. Because if success must be earned, then it is not reserved only for the lucky. It is available to the persistent. It belongs to those who keep showing up, who keep learning, who keep standing after disappointment, and who understand that the road may be difficult, but still worth walking. So whatever your dream is, do not abandon it because the path is hard. The hard path may be the very one that transforms you into the person capable of living that dream. Remember this: nothing comes without a price. But with effort, discipline, and courage, almost anything becomes possible.